Okay, so now let's talk about birth plan and the mistake I made, so you don't have to make the same mistake. My biggest mistake was I didn't make a birth plan. And here's the reason why. I wanted to give birth in a birthing center. So it would have been my midwife I already knew for a couple of months, and I never even thought I would end up in hospital. So I thought I would go to the birthing center. There might be some difficulties, and then I would go to hospital, but then it would already be like quite far progressed. So I didn't have even the thought of what I want or didn't want in hospital. The situation in the birthing house would have been like very much mom-centered, and everything would have been like led by what I needed, and the midwife would have helped me to figure that out moment by moment. Now, birthing in a hospital is a different story. I have to add that I gave birth in Germany, so their birthing centers are separate from hospitals, and if anything goes wrong or mom or baby is in danger, they have to transport you. So now I recently learned that in South Africa or in Johannesburg, you have the opportunity of like actually going to a facility where it's a midwife-led birth in a birthing center environment. But if anything goes wrong, you do have a doctor also on call, like as a second backup. And they even have a theater there. So how cool is that? That's what I would have loved. So back to the birth plan. So here's what happened. My water broke and I didn't get contractions. And then there's this 24-hour rule, which we stretched to the 48-hour rule, which some research also allows and suggests. And some moms even, stay longer without having contractions. But I didn't want to do that. So I went to hospital because then you have to be on antibiotics. So they had to induce contractions. So now I was in hospital way before any contractions actually started. I only sat down there and then to make my birth plan. And I didn't even know the hospital, the facilities, the opportunities. So what I wrote down was pretty generic. I found it here for you. And some of the things I thought about the first time when I was in hospital. So it was way too late to also instruct my birth partner. It was just too late for a lot of things to research. So I was like devastated because I had this whole idea about having this beautiful birth in a birthing center. And here we go. You can't plan the whole thing and certainly can't control what actually is going to happen. But you have a scope of control within certain areas. And that's what the birth plan is about. Just a simple way of like thinking about how you want things to go in case you have to make a decision and you don't want to think about it in the very first moment when you are under that pressure, when you have contractions, when you're already tired. So it makes a lot of sense to think about it before. And my mistake was that, I never imagined I ended up in hospital. And then a lot of the things I wrote down, I had written down because it was kind of the generic thing I found on the internet, and I found also within my birth preparation material, but I didn't really know what it meant. And I would have trusted my midwife in the birthing center to like really just do the absolute necessary, because they were all about least intervention during birth, because it always brings up your stress level. And when your stress level goes up, the oxytocin level drops, and that will inhibit contraction and the progressing of the birth. I was just glad that within all this chaos, I had my mindfulness practice, because that brought me back to myself and to feel more into what I need than overthinking it now. Oh, I don't have a birth plan. I don't know what to do. I don't know what it all means. That was helpful, but I think it would have been even easier to stay in my body if I had done all the thinking and thought process before. It's an intense physical demand on your body and equally so on your heart and your mind. And I think it's a very unique journey. We can have all the tools and all the preparation, but then it's such a unique thing. Sharing a birth story is part of the healing, part of the growing, and then transitioning into motherhood, where you're not stuck on the experience and integrated, especially if there were things where you felt out of control, if there were things where you felt just other people made decisions for you wouldn't have wanted to do. So sending you lots of love.